Hi, welcome to Business Law TV. I'm your host, Anki Kwan, and in this episode, I wanted to talk about what you need to think about before you hire your first independent contractor, or if you're thinking about hiring independent contractors, what you need to know before making that hire. One of the most commonly asked questions I get from business owners is whether they can hire an independent contractor. And a common misconception is that as long as you have an independent contractor agreement or have your independent contractor sign some documentation setting forth the terms of the agreement and the fact that they're an independent contractor, then that person would be classified as an independent contractor, but that isn't the case. If you misclassify your employees as independent contractors, you can face stiff penalties, owe back taxes, and even face jail time. In California, you're liable for $5,000 to $25,000 per violation of misclassifying an employee as an independent contractor. And the IRS and the EDD, it doesn't look to your agreements to determine whether you're hiring an independent contractor or an employee. It looks at the reality of the situation. So in determining whether you can hire someone as an independent contractor, you look at a few factors. The IRS and California looks at similar factors, but in this episode, I wanted to go over the IRS factors first, and I may go over the California factors in an upcoming episode. The IRS looks at three factors in determining whether your worker is an independent contractor or an employee. First, and the most important factor it looks at is whether you have control over the behavior of that person you're hiring. Even if you don't exercise any control over that person's work or their behavior, the factor they look at is whether you actually can control that individual. For example, when you hire an independent contractor, you're looking to get a particular result. You don't micromanage that independent contractor to make sure that they're doing things a certain way to achieve that result. You just care that the thing that you're hiring them for is completed. For example, let's say that Starbucks has a leaky toilet. It doesn't care how that plumber fixes that toilet. It just cares that the toilet is fixed. On the other hand, if Starbucks is hiring a barista, it does care that the barista wears all black and wears its apron and treats its customers and makes the coffee a certain way, because Starbucks wants their customers to have a particular experience regardless of which Starbucks that it goes into. So if Starbucks hires a barista, it can't hire that barista as an independent contractor because Starbucks needs its baristas to give the customer a particular experience, and they do in fact control the behavior of their baristas. The second thing that the IRS looks at is whether you have financial control over that worker. What is financial control? An independent contractor has the opportunity to make a profit or loss from working with their clients, and they are allowed to work with multiple clients, whereas employees are required to work for their employer. And in a lot of employment offer letters and employment agreements, employees are actually prohibited from pursuing other types of work or employment at the same time, whereas it's expected that an independent contractor have multiple clients and multiple sources of income. And an independent contractor also has the opportunity to make a profit or loss from each of their jobs. Whereas an employee is dependent on a regular paycheck, an independent contractor is usually paid on a flat fee basis. The third factor the IRS looks at is the type of relationship you have with that worker. Is this an ongoing relationship, or are you hiring that worker for one specific purpose? If the relationship is ongoing, then it would go to suggest that this person really isn't an independent contractor, but is actually an employee. Whereas if you're hiring this person for one specific job and your relationship ends after that job, then it would suggest that you have an independent contractor relationship with that person. So this factor looks at whether you have an ongoing relationship with the worker that you're hiring. This factor also looks at whether this person is providing key services for your organization. If they are providing key services, for example, the Starbucks barista is providing key services because Starbucks is in the business of serving coffee and the barista is making and serving the coffee. In the Starbucks example, the barista is an employee, whereas if they're hiring a plumber to fix their toilet, it's not part of the key services that their business provides, so that individual would be an independent contractor and not an employee. The factor also looks at whether the worker is on the company's benefits plan. Employees are entitled to company benefits if they're provided, whereas independent contractors are not entitled to receive those benefits. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please share. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Goodbye.